when grid fails. Now what? Welcome to Grid Down Guide. In a world where power can vanish in an instant, survival isn't just a skill, it's a necessity. We've got the know-how to keep you prepared. Whether you're in the heart of the city or lost in the wilderness, we teach you the essential skills to thrive. Stay tuned. The grid could fail tomorrow. Be ready today.
February 2022. In just hours, Ukrainian supermarkets were stripped bare. Not days, hours. Missiles didn't just destroy buildings. They collapsed the system people depended on: food, power, logistics. And suddenly, ordinary people became scavengers overnight. What they learned could save your life when collapse hits home. The moment the first shots rang out, the world changed. Day one of the war, people flooded stores, driven by an instinct to protect themselves and their families. It was a scene of utter chaos, a desperate scramble for survival. The initial shock quickly morphed into a primal urge to secure the necessities, to create a buffer against the unknown. By nightfall, the shelves were utterly gutted. The essentials vanished first, leaving behind a stark landscape of empty spaces. Especially bread, the staff of life, disappeared in a flash. Bottled water, crucial for hydration and sanitation, was gone. Canned meat, a source of protein, was swept away. Baby formula, a lifeline for infants, vanished, leaving parents in despair. And batteries, the power source for communication and light, were nowhere to be found. The speed and totality of the depletion were shocking. We saw lines stretching a block long, snaking around buildings, filled with anxious faces. People were laden with heavy bags, filled with anxious faces. People were laden with heavy bags, their arms straining under the weight of their meager provisions. You could only buy what you could carry, a limit imposed by the sheer volume of people and the dwindling supplies. Then, it was gone. The shelves were bare, the hope diminished, and the reality of the situation sunk in. Panic buying starts instantly. Not after a warning, not after a government announcement, but the very second the threat becomes real. It's a visceral reaction. A fight-or-flight response triggered by the fear of scarcity. People act on instinct, driven by the need to protect their own. Within 6 hours, the essentials vanished, leaving behind a sense of unease and vulnerability. The speed at which society can devolve into a state of scarcity is alarming. It highlights the fragility of our systems and the importance of individual preparedness. You need at least 30 days of shelf-stable food before anything hits, a buffer against the initial chaos and disruption. This isn't about hoarding. It's about ensuring your family's survival in the face of unforeseen circumstances. It's about having the peace of mind knowing you can weather the storm. If you're waiting for the news to tell you it's time to prep, you're already too late. The time to prepare is now, before the crisis hits, before the shelves are empty, before the panic sets in. Don't wait for a warning. Be proactive, be responsible, and be ready to face whatever challenges may come your way. Preppers talk about gourmet survival meals, but in Ukraine, they ate what worked. Rice, pasta, oil, lentils, canned beans, canned tuna, crackers, instant coffee. White rice lasts 20 plus years. Dry beans or lentils, cooking oil, sunflower or olive, canned fish and meats, instant noodles and tea. Shelf-stable milk or powdered dairy, simple food, cheap food. Cheap food, the kind that fills you up and doesn't need a fridge. In the aftermath of the collapse, the absence of clean, readily available water quickly became a critical issue. When essential infrastructure crumbled, water treatment plants, once the cornerstones of public health, ceased to function. The complex systems that purified and distributed water to homes and businesses fell silent, leaving communities vulnerable. The immediate impact was stark. Taps ran dry, or worse, sputtered out a stream of brown, potentially toxic water. With the conventional water supply compromised, people were forced to find alternative sources. Those in colder climates turned to melting snow, a laborious but necessary task. Others devised ingenious rainwater collection systems, using tarps and containers to capture every precious drop. Some sought out local springs and wells, hoping for a source of naturally filtered water, but even these sources were not guaranteed to be safe. To combat the risk of waterborne diseases, boiling water became a daily ritual. Families gathered around small gas stoves, carefully heating water to a rolling boil, a process that consumed precious fuel, but offered a crucial layer of protection. The resourcefulness of individuals shone through as they collected rain in plastic sheeting and pots, improvising systems to maximize their water yield. Every drop was valuable, and people became acutely aware of the importance of water conservation. Recognizing the limitations of boiling alone, people turned to improvised filters. Using readily available materials like cloth, sand, and charcoal, they constructed rudimentary filtration systems in plastic bottles, attempting to remove sediment and impurities. For those who had prepared in advance or were fortunate enough to find them, professional water filters like Sawyer, LifeStraw, and Berkey offered a more reliable solution. These filters, designed to remove bacteria and protozoa, became invaluable tools for ensuring access to safe drinking water. In the absence of filters, iodine tablets or bleach drops provided a chemical means of disinfecting water. However, careful attention to dosage was crucial, as too much could be harmful, while too little would be ineffective. Recognizing the fragility of their water supply, people began stockpiling water in storage jugs, aiming for at least 1 gallon per person per day, a bare minimum for survival. More elaborate systems involved rain catchment tarps or gutter systems designed to channel rainwater into larger storage barrels, providing a more sustainable source of water over time. In a world already fraught with danger, people feared dying from bombs and violence. But tragically, it was often contaminated water that sickened and claimed the lives of the most vulnerable, particularly children and the elderly, highlighting the critical importance of safe water access in a crisis. The sudden blackouts plunged entire cities into darkness. No power hummed through the lines. No lights flickered on in homes. No gas flowed to stoves. Just cold, silent homes, a stark reminder of the new reality. The familiar comforts of modern life vanished in an instant, leaving people to grapple with the immediate challenges of survival. Imagine the chilling effect of knowing that the basic necessities you once took for granted were now luxuries of the past. So Ukrainians had to improvise fast. The need to cook, to heat, to simply survive spurred a wave of ingenuity. Kitchens, once filled with the aroma of home-cooked meals, transformed into workshops of necessity. Every available resource was reevaluated, every discarded item considered for its potential. The urgency was palpable, a race against the encroaching cold and hunger. Canned heat, sterno. These small cans of jellied fuel became lifelines, providing a controlled if limited source of heat. They were easy to store, relatively safe to use indoors, and capable of boiling water or heating small meals. Sterno became a staple in many households, a symbol of resilience in the face of adversity. Rocket stoves made from bricks or metal cans. These ingenious devices maximized heat output while minimizing fuel consumption. Using readily available materials, people constructed efficient stoves that could cook food with a fraction of the wood needed for an open fire. The rocket stove became a testament to human adaptability, a practical solution born from desperate circumstances. Alcohol stoves using ethanol or gel. Small, portable, and relatively clean-burning alcohol stoves offered another option for indoor cooking. They were particularly useful for heating small amounts of water or preparing simple meals. The blue flame of an alcohol stove became a beacon of hope in the darkness, a symbol of self-reliance and resourcefulness. Solar ovens during daylight. Harnessing the power of the sun, these simple devices provided a sustainable way to cook food without relying on fuel. On clear days, solar ovens could bake bread, roast vegetables, and even cook meat. They were a reminder that even in the darkest of times, nature could still provide sustenance. BBQs and wood fires in courtyards. As the crisis deepened, communal cooking became more common. Courtyards transformed into makeshift kitchens, filled with the smoky aroma of wood fires and the sounds of shared meals. These gatherings fostered a sense of community and solidarity, reminding people that they were not alone in their struggle. Silent cooking mattered, especially near cities under attack. The threat of bombardment and surveillance forced people to adapt their cooking methods. Open flames were minimized, noise was suppressed, and every movement was carefully considered. The simple act of preparing a meal became a clandestine operation, a delicate balance between survival and security. Smoke, sound, or light could give you away. Every wisp of smoke, every stray sound, every flicker of light could attract unwanted attention. People learned to cook in the shadows, to muffle the sounds of their activities, and to extinguish any telltale signs of their presence. The need for secrecy became paramount, a constant reminder of the dangers lurking nearby. Eventually, people had to scavenge. As supplies dwindled, the search for food, water, and other essentials became increasingly desperate. People ventured into the ruins of their former lives, risking their safety to find what they needed to survive. Scavenging became a necessary evil, a testament to the harsh realities of war. Abandoned apartments, storage units, bombed out stores. These places became hunting grounds filled with the remnants of shattered lives. Each foray into these desolate spaces was a gamble, a search for sustenance amidst the debris of destruction. The scavengers were not looters, but survivors, driven by the primal need to provide for themselves and their families. Go early, go quiet, go light. These were the cardinal rules of scavenging. The early morning hours offered a cloak of darkness and a chance to avoid unwanted encounters. Silence was essential to avoid detection, and carrying only what was necessary ensured a swift escape if danger arose. Wear gloves and boots. Glass and debris are everywhere. The urban landscape had become a treacherous obstacle course, littered with shards of glass and debris are everywhere. The urban landscape had become a treacherous obstacle course littered with shards of glass, twisted metal, and concrete. Protective gear considered was essential to avoid injury and infection. Every step had to be carefully considered, every surface treated with caution. Never go alone. There was safety in numbers. Traveling in pairs or small groups provided a measure of protection against potential threats, both human and environmental. Watching each other's backs became a matter of survival, a testament to the bonds of community forged in the crucible of conflict. Don't take what you can't carry fast. Efficiency was key. Every item had to be carefully weighed against its value and its weight. The goal was to gather as much sustenance as possible while remaining agile and mobile. The ability to move quickly could mean the difference between life and death. Check for water first. It's heavier and harder to find. Water was the most precious commodity. Dehydration could quickly lead to weakness and death. Securing a reliable source of water was the top priority for any scavenging expedition. Every bottle, every container, every potential source of water was carefully scrutinized. Survival became strategic. You couldn't just grab and go. You had to think. Every decision, every action had to be carefully calculated. The scavengers were not simply reacting to their circumstances. They were actively shaping their own destinies. They were strategists, planners, and survivors, all rolled into one.
Ukraine taught us a brutal lesson. Collapse is not a Hollywood apocalypse. It's real. It's sudden, and it's survivable if you're ready. They went from supermarket lines to scavengers in a blackout, and many are still alive today because they didn't wait. Subscribe to Grid Down Guide. Hit the bell for real-world survival strategies. Comment below. What's one food you would miss if the grid went down tomorrow?
Prepare now. Hands urgently pack emergency survival kit. Survive anything. Subscribe now. Grid Down Guide.